Good afternoon, YouTubians. Welcome back to the Openly Occultic Book Club. We're reading the definitive book of human design, The Science of Differentiation, written by Linda Bunnell and authorized by Ra Uru Hu, who is the founder of the human design system. We read the introduction last time, or the previous time before last, and last time we got together, we read section 1. So now we're going to dive back in and read or start back at section 2, which is going to explain to us the 9 centers or the flow of energy in your body. So, hope you stick around. Thank you for joining us. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe so that others can learn about the awesomeness of the human design system, particularly if you know someone who's into astrology, because the human design system is like astrology on steroids. That's what I've been saying lately. It's like astrology times whatever, more than astrology by itself, if you understand what I'm saying. Okay, let's get back to section 2 of the human design system. The 9 centers and the flow of energy. There's the head center, the ajna center, the throat center, the G center, the heart center, the splenic and sacral center, the solar plexus center, and the root center. So off top, it's very similar to the chakras with the root, sacral, solar plexus, though that's over here and not where we typically understood it to be, in the middle. Interesting. The 9 centers are energy hubs that transform or transmute the life force as it flows through the body graph or through your body. The overview on the opposite page will introduce you to each of the 9 centers by name and its distinguishing function and its location within the body graph. Please note that the root and the solar plexus centers each appear in 2 categories. Each of the 9 centers will be covered in more detail later in this section. The root and solar plexus centers each appear in 2 categories. Okay, I'll keep that in mind. I don't know what it means just yet, but I'll remember that. 1 manifestation center. All roads lead to Rome. The throat center establishes the context for our discussion of the 9 centers. Its extraordinary and unique function is similar to that of a town square. All energy is being moved through the other 8 centers towards the throat, where it is given a voice as a means to physically manifest and or verbally communicate our human intelligence. The throat center is how we express precisely what it means to be a differentiated human being at the top of the food chain. So there's 1 manifestation center, the throat. There are 2 pressure centers. The head and root centers are 2 pressure sources that move the energy towards the 3 awareness centers. They are the pressures to know and to do, to think and to stay alive. The head asks the question, which moves the energy onto the ajna to conceptualize the answer. Root pressure provides the adrenalized drive to survive, the momentum for moving life forward. This fuel is a potent energy which is sent on to and further refined by the splenic, solar plexus, and sacral centers on its way to the throat, where it will be communicated or acted upon. There are 3 awareness centers. The splenic, ajna, and solar plexus centers are three potential areas of self-consciousness and self-awareness. Each focuses and interprets our life experiences energetically as body, mind, or spirit awareness. The other six centers function at a mechanical level. Upon reaching the throat, the energy becomes an expression of our conscious intelligence, either as splenic intelligence, which is where your survival awareness comes from, or as mental intelligence, which is where your cognitive awareness comes from, or as emotional or spirit intelligence, which is relational and falls under the umbrella of social awareness, right? There are four motor or energy centers. The root, solar plexus, sacral, and heart centers are motors, specific frequencies that provide us with the energy resources needed to manifest our life. The root provides us with momentum to keep going. The emotional wave of the solar plexus provides us with the impetus of desire for more experience, for intimacy in relationships, and for spirit awareness. In the sacral, we have the generative energy to support the continuation of the form, or your body, the creative life force. The heart is the motor energy behind the I, me, and mine, the source of our willpower. It ensures that it ensures our survival on the material plane through communal hierarchies. There's one identity center. The G center is home to the magnetic monopole, strategically located in the body graph as the center of the mandala. It establishes our identity as a direction through time in space called our geometry. This is where our own unique energy flow or definition connects to the flow of all life, or how we're wired to the universe. The magnetic monopole pulls our life towards us. We might say the universe lives life through us. Nice. And as we scroll through there, you saw it highlighted the areas on the body graph that it was talking about. So your throat center is the manifestation center, as we see here. The, the head and root centers are the two pressure centers, as we see here. The three awareness centers, meaning the spleen, the ajna, and the solar plexus, or ajna is the third eye, and we see the defined solar plexus and splenic centers. And now we also have four motor energy centers. It showed us on this diagram what centers we're talking about: the root, the solar plexus, the sacral, and the heart. These are your energy or your motor centers. And the identity center is the G center. The magnetic monopole is located there, as it shows on the diagram. Okay, defined and undefined centers. You will notice in the body graph that some of the centers are colored in or defined, and some are not colored in or are undefined. The centers that are defined are fixed and reliable in the way in which they function and operate. The centers that are undefined, right, they're not colored in, they're just white, plain white. These are the places in which you experience outside influences or conditioning, programming, if you will. The undefined centers are not broken, they're not empty, and they do not need to be fixed. There are places where we're vulnerable to conditioning and areas to learn and gather wisdom. Each of us are made up of a mix between what is defined and what is undefined. This is not a question of it being good or bad. The defined parts of us represent the student living the life, and what is undefined represents where we're going to school, the school of life. Um, The process of becoming yourself is a process of recognizing where we're taking in conditioning in life and how it affects us and how to put it in its proper context. The opportunity for wisdom lies in this recognition. So now we're here to undefined center conditioning and the not self mind. When we transitioned from seven centered to nine centeredness in 1781, the strategic decision making role of the mind shifted from directing our lives to becoming a source of wisdom and out authority for others. The mind still insists on doing what it has done for thousands of years. It does not grasp the fact that its job description has changed, which creates tension between our form and our mind, as well as between the true self and the not self. Our incredible minds are not capable of being the personal authority of our new nine centered form. The personality crystal, or passenger consciousness, is invited into the fetus during the last 3 months of pregnancy after our body is fully formed. The passenger gets acquainted with the neocortex of its new vehicle, but has nothing directly to do with creating any part of the form or body. Without something specific to do, the passenger decides to take on the job of backseat driver without a license. From its lofty position in the head center, it thinks it's best equipped to run the show or your life. There's two significant details, however, that the passenger mind isn't aware of. The first is that you already have a driver, your magnetic monopole. The second is that your vehicle has recently evolved to a level of sophistication and consciousness that far exceeds the mind. That is to say, the mind reached its zenith in the seventh century being, having guided humanity to an unprecedented level of consciousness and scientific achievement. However, after 1781, our forms took an evolutionary leap, and our bodies now have nine functioning centers with a built in connection to a trustworthy, individualized compass. I'm reading through this, but I have things that I don't agree with, things that I want to point out. I'll say all that after I read through some of this, and we'll pause for a little bit just to kind of put some things on the record, ask a few questions, and so on and so forth. So let's continue. It says, we each have our own GPS, and it is hardwired to the universe. Our mind can no longer compete successfully in decision making with this new nine centered form or body that it's joined to, but does not understand. Undeterred by these facts, the mind continues doing what it has always done. It tries to direct your life. This does not make our mind an enemy to be overcome or repressed or ignored, but rather a creative force that is here to be reckoned with and befriended. Our mind's designated role, for which it is perfectly suited, is to think and to dream, to inspire and to formulate, and to make sense out of life. The mind is an amazing gift when freed from decision making and used in service to humanity. The mind is meant to be a tool for us and a potential teacher for others. What stops that from happening is our ignorance about the mechanics of how we are designed to operate. By making our mind an ally and liberating it from the task of decision making so that it can settle comfortably into its role as a self reflected, conscious observer, we allow our mind to reveal its true treasures and make its rightful contribution. From birth, we are continuously in the auric fields of our mother, father, siblings, relatives, and others. Our undefined or open channels, gates, and centers are constantly being defined or energetically filled in by the definition of others. Over time, we are subtly but deeply influenced by their energetic fields, as well as by their growing expectations of us, talking about these other people. Over time, we are subtly but deeply influenced by other people's energy fields, as well as other people's growing expectations of us. This is what the human design system describes as conditioning, or what I'm calling programming in so many ways, but same thing, right? Although we never lose touch with who we really are, by the time we've reached 7 years of age, several layers of familial and societal conditioning have been piled over our true selves. hmm Conditioning cannot be circumvented or escaped, nor is it inherently a bad thing. It's simply unavoidable. Planetary transits, people, and all life forms, including insects, birds, animals, and plants, connect to us and can influence our thought patterns, our behavior, and our decisions, especially if we're not grounded in our own design through our strategy and authority. Throughout our life, the natural curiosity of our open centers attracts us to people with definition in those same centers. Absorbing their frequency, however, puts pressure on our openness and triggers our mind into thinking about all that we're missing. The open spaces in our chart are referred to as the source of our not self simply because they are energetically inconsistent and unreliable. It is when we begin to confuse what we experience through our openness, that which is not us, with our defined self or true self, that which is consistent within us, that we run into problems. The human design system carefully scrutinizes where we are open to the impact of conditioning and distinguishes it from our definition. It shows us that by following our strategy and authority, we are thoroughly and uniquely equipped to face and resolve the dilemmas arising from our not self constructs. Our undefined centers are open to stimulation and are literally designed to draw us into life. When we use our mind to make decisions, however, our open centers become part of what is called our not self mind. Since that which is reliable and consistent about us is not really interesting to our busy mind, what is open or undefined becomes a source of deep attraction. It is what we long for, what we feel drawn to experience, and what we think we have or want to be, or what we think we have to have or want to be. Unfortunately, the seduction of this attraction can lead us away from our core nature, which is why we don't often live out our own unique potential. The problem is that when we try to be what we're not designed to be, everything gets distorted. We become lost, caught up in chasing after what constantly eludes us in our life. Basing decisions on ever changing and elusive desires, on what is not consistently us, is like trying to build a house on shifting sand. Eventually, a false assumption begins to grow that this is our life. The result is a sense of fatigue, failure, along with frustration, bitterness, anger, and disappointment with life. In the early years of your life, your passenger mind thought that its decisions were protecting you and your vehicle from being overcome or hurt by the experiences coming through your open and vulnerable places or centers. Your mind got caught up in your body's innate fears for its physical, mental, and emotional well being, its need for security, love, and support. Those fears were amplified many times in your open centers. So your mind developed a hypervigilance to your environment. It used how others responded or reacted to you to keep you compromising your true self, always comparing yourself to others' expectations and needs of you. It drove you to conform in order to fit in. and to make life comfortable for you and for those around you. And it worked for a while. There were even rewarding trade-offs, but in the end, you paid a price. Each decision that we make in life either keeps us on our path or takes us on a confusing and sometimes painful detour. Either moves us closer to or further away from our true nature and purpose. Correct decisions made from our personal authority, from that which is defined in us that we can trust, align us with our destiny and place us in relationships, locations, and jobs that are correct for us. Decisions made by our mind and based on conditioning from our undefined centers cause us to veer from our course. When this happens, we find ourselves confronted by situations that we are not equipped to deal with and making commitments that drain our energy and inhibit the use of our true talents. Society places a huge emphasis on the mind, or mental awareness, and on making things happen. The conditioning pressure on us isn't going to go away anytime soon. Since we usually have more undefined spaces than definition in our chart, the vast complexity and amplification of our openness by the not self mind easily exerts inordinate power over our lives. It is extremely difficult for our definition to stand up to the pressure coming through such openness, especially when half of our definition lies below our level of consciousness. Fortunately, our strategy and authority simply bypass the illusory net of the mind's persuasions and allow the driver to drive. Let's say that again. Fortunately for us, our strategy and authority simply bypass the illusory net of the mind's persuasions and allow the driver to drive. This is called surrender, the state of awareness that we seek. Okay? We'll keep on. It says not self. We're going to deal with the open center questions. Not self open center questions. The open centers in our body graph reveal key vulnerable soft spots and how our mind has used them to create its own decision making strategy in an attempt to keep us from further confusion and pain. Over time, the mind's protective strategies become unhealthy habitual behaviors or unconscious habits that carry over into adulthood. Once you can see where the ineffective habits come from and what they come from, and that they come from a space that is not you in the first place, it's much easier to let them go. As we begin to see just how easy it is to become lost in our openness and then identify it with it, we also begin to see the undefined centers as the rich sources of exploration that they're supposed to be. Through them come our most unexpected encounters, our greatest discoveries, and deepest insights, all joining together to become wisdom over time. With the knowledge that the human design system gives us about ourselves, we can begin to appreciate and enjoy our openness in a new way. Wisdom lies in the unattached experiences of our openness. Every one of the undefined centers, channels, and gates in our chart holds the potential for such wisdom. So now we see the main questions that each of these centers is dealing with. So for your head center, the question is, am I trying to answer everybody else's question? Right? So if you have an open head center on your body graph, and I hope you guys have gotten your body graph by now. I have mine. I could pull it up. I might pull it up. But regardless, if you have your chart and you see you have an open center for your head center, the question is, am I trying to answer everybody else's questions? For the third eye or Anja center, the question is, am I trying to convince everyone that I'm certain? questions that the open center is trying to seek out answers to, is what I'm getting from this. So then your what is this? Your throat center. Am I trying to attract attention? Right. If your throat center is open, you run the risk of doing a lot of talking, communicating, and it might be because you're trying to attract attention. So the question is, hey, should I be talking? Is what I'm about to say relevant? Does it matter? Or am I just trying to attract attention? That's the question you would ask yourself if you have an open throat center. Am I talking right now, communicating right now for a real reason, or am I just trying to attract attention? Okay, we'll keep reading, but so I'm interjecting right now, but we'll read on to what it says in the book when it gives this explanation. The G center, the question is, am I looking for love and direction? If it's an open center. The heart center, if it's open and not defined or colored in on your chart, the question is, do I think I have something to prove? The solar plexus, am I avoiding confrontation and truth? The splenic center, am I holding on to what isn't good for me? The sacral center, do I know when enough is enough? Again, these are questions if you have an open center. The question is, do I know when enough is enough? And the root center, am I in a hurry to get things done so I can be free of pressure? Okay. The illustration above lists the not self mantras for each of the open centers. They are questions that we can ask ourselves to determine if we're operating from our true self or our not self. We will explore each of these centers and their not self constructs in more depth. However, taking time now to ask yourself the questions which apply to your open centers can be a most illuminating exercise and an effective way to discover how subtle yet pervasive not self conditioning can be. Right? The not self keynoted in a body graph. Precise analysis of our body graph allows us to literally map how we have been conditioned to think throughout our life, providing us with amazing details and insights into the workings of our mind. What we discover is a very strong and powerful link between our mind, early painful experiences, and our undefined centers. The chart example to the left has been keynoted to illustrate where this person has been most vulnerable to conditioning throughout her life, beginning with the undefined splenic center, which is about security. That center, the center is about security. She has been conditioned, since hers is open and not defined or colored in on this body graph right here. She has been conditioned to hold on to things such as jobs, relationships, places, and attitudes in order to feel safe. The undefined spleen is concerned about survival. Its easily aroused fears can cause one to stay in jobs and relationships long after they have ceased being healthy. Through the undefined heart center, she is conditioned to prove her worth, that she is good enough, sexy enough, loyal enough, pretty enough, smart enough, and so on. She is prone to making promises that she does not have the willpower to keep, but tries and fails to keep them to prove how valuable she is, ultimately resulting in low self worth. The undefined head center is a mind that is occupied with thinking thoughts that don't matter. Her mind is busily engaged in trying to resolve people's unanswered questions. With an undefined root center, she feels pressure to hurry through things and to get things done so she can move on to the next and get rid of the pressure. The keynotes of her undefined centers create a picture of what her mind has been focused on and basing her decisions on most of her life. When we synthesize all this information into a sentence, we have a person afraid of losing her relationships or job security, so she works very hard to get things done quickly, trying to resolve everyone's questions in order to prove how valuable she is. Wow. So you're saying the keynotes are basically, hey, we can sum up just looking at this. I can tell you exactly what's going on while using keynotes, I guess is what's being said here. Right? The keynotes of her undefined centers create a picture of what her mind has been focused on and basing her decisions on most of her life. Interesting. So if we synthesize the keynotes and all that information into a sentence, we have a person afraid of losing her relationship or job security, so she works very hard to get things done quickly, trying to resolve everyone's questions in order to prove how valuable she is. 4 points made, 4 undefined centers. Nice. If it's your path to move towards transformation and awareness, you will slowly but surely stop giving authority to your mind and surrender to the authority of your form. You'll let go of the mind's idea of what you should and shouldn't do and what you think your life is supposed to be like through surrender. And though surrender is not a natural state for the mind can learn to surrender to your strategy and authority and assume its true position as an aware passenger and observer, having the ride of its life in a vehicle that knows exactly where to take it. Yes. Here's a quote from Ra Uru Hu. Ra Uru Hu is not who I am. Ra is somebody I watch. I'm not atomic. I'm made of dark matter. That's what is watching. It's watching through the prism of the atomic medium because without it, the I am is forever silent. The passenger that I am, that isn't atomic, can be free in life instead of death. That's the point. Interesting. Black matter, atoms, atomic. Okay. Um, I have a question. Because when we read the introduction and we started reading the first section of this book, it was told to us that human design is a synthesis of multiple things. It's a synthesis of the Hindu Brahma chakra system, right? The chakras. It's a synthesis of the Kabbalah, Zohar, Kabbalah tree of life. It's a synthesis of the I Ching from China, and it's a synthesis of astrology, as we can see, and quantum physics. So Hindu Brahma, that's Hinduism. Zoroastrian Kabbalah, that's Zoroastrian. The I Ching, that's Chinese. Astrology, we'll just say, I don't know, it's ancient. We know that. Those things that he said this is a synthesis of, why did he take an Egyptian name? Why name himself Ra? Why didn't he take a Chinese name or a Hindu name or a Zoroastrian name? Why take an Egyptian name? Leave a comment. Let me know why you think he took an Egyptian name. I'm going to say this. I think all those systems were part of Egypt or Kemet. Kemet was a worldwide empire, and division came in by a colonizer or somebody dividing them, acting like these were separate parts of the kingdom when they were all one part of one. There was wholeness there. That's why all their archaeology, that's why there's pyramids in these same places. That's why they're practicing the same things. So it's all Kemet, it's all Egyptian. I believe he knows that. That's why he took the name Ra instead of taking a I Ching name, a Chinese name since it's part of I Ching, or taking a Hindu name since the chakras and Hindu Brahmin chakras are part of this, or take on a Zoroastrian name, since he said, oh, it's part of the Zoroastrian Kabbalah tree of life. Why not take a Zoroastrian name? Why take an Egyptian name but not name Egyptians as having everything to do with this the whole time? Like, this is Kemet, and I know he knows because he took an Egyptian name. But you let me know why you think he changed his name to Egyptian. Or do you find that interesting that he took an Egyptian name while not saying nothing about Egypt in this book this whole time? He's talking about Hindu, China, and Zoroastrian. Where's the Egypt? Why is his name Egyptian? I'm just wondering if y'all can see that, or is it just me? Let me know. Let me know in the comments. Am I tripping? But anyway, I wanted to scroll back to some of the things that we read earlier, but because I have issues with some of the things that's being said. I feel like conception begins at birth, so that's when your design crystal would be designed, and the personality crystal, they say it, it comes and manifests in your body. What he said it earlier when we were reading that this personality crystal is invited into the fetus during the last 3 months of pregnancy. So just some questions I have is, how does this personality crystal enter the body? But I do understand that our pineal gland, I understand that the pineal gland is like a crystal. They describe it as a pine cone, but then they also talk about how it can be calcified and decalcified. I take hard taki every day. It's called Yogi Superfood. It opens the third eye. I take it every day, and it's great. And but I say that to say the personality crystal, I believe it's a real thing. I believe the magnetic monopole is a real thing. I have questions on how he says the design crystal comes 88 days before the personality crystal, and I don't know if I can go with that. Um, but maybe, because he says the personality crystal comes 3 months before you're born, basically, and then 88 days before that would be what? Almost 3 months before that. So if you're born at 9.5 months, your personality crystal came 6 months in after you were conceived, and almost 3 months before that would, yeah, be about what, 3 months? That's what I'm saying. Something's off here. But it's okay. I just wanted to point that out because I'm into um, making things plain. It doesn't have to be a mystery. But there's also a lot of lies mixed with truth in a lot of things. Particularly when we start talking about this seven-centered, how we've evolved from seven-centered to nine-centered beings in 1781, when Uranus was found by Herschel. This is astronomy talk. I don't know about all that. I don't know who changed from seven-centered to nine-centered. I hear him, what he's saying. And then anyway, he says a voice told him all this anyway, and he wrote it down over 8 days while this voice was dictating to him what to write. So all of that is weird for me, and I'm not into ghost stories and fake stuff. I like to know the truth and the facts. I feel like the truth is these are writings that were taken from Kemet, you know, in the colonizers' mission to destroy writings and destroy and hide some of these writings in the Vatican. Freemasons have plenty of these writings because these are the people who raided ancient libraries and destroyed them, right? Book burnings and all that. So anyway, he claims a voice told him. I don't believe that at all. I believe he's a Freemason who got a hold of these writings, or some of these ancient writings, and then just kind of like repackaged it and made it, and what, trademarked it, copyright and act like he's the one from which this wisdom came from, when it's clear this information came from Kemet. And like he said, this is all about synthesizing ancient systems that have already been here long before the colonizer got here, by the way. So anyway, I just wanted to point these things out. Some things I don't agree with, or we're reading it just to hear his side, and to see what's being said. But that don't mean I turn my brain off. Yeah, and it's funny because we're talking about the mind. So it ain't even about my mind. It's about my spidey senses. My spidey senses are tingling, telling me he's lying or somebody's lying about something. And that's obvious. Nobody has the whole truth. I'm not that mad. I'm thankful the information is here because, like I said, the colonizers burned all the ancient writings and hid the ones that they kept in the Vatican. So I'm just glad that the information is here, but that don't mean I can't go over what's being said and call a lie when I see it and say, hey, this looks like truth right here when I see that. So that's how I'm rolling when it comes to this. I hope you guys are staying with me. Thank you for being here. Make sure to leave a comment. Let me know your thoughts as we learn more about this human design system. Because I think that I would still hold on to it. There's important things being said. I just know that some things that are being said are not truthful. And personally, I think that's intentional. But it's okay. You know, I just keep growing in knowledge and put the puzzle pieces together as they come. So here we are on defined, undefined, and completely open centers. The way our activated gates are configured within a center determines how the center operates, how it is experienced within us, and how it interacts with the environment and people around us. Right? The way our activated gates are configured. Right? So here's an example of what he's saying. At the top is a completely open center. Here we have an undefined center, but it has dormant gates in it. So it's not a completely open center. It's just an undefined center because it does have gates that are defined within it, dormant gates. Okay, here is here's these three examples are of defined centers because they're colored in. Now we see the active gates because the channel or the line going from each center to the next is defined. So we see defined channels, which are the lines, defined gates, and they're active. Yeah, okay. Defined center. In the illustration above, when two gates at both ends of a channel come together, they form a definition. Gate 7 and gate 31 form the channel of the alpha. It's down here. Gate 7 is in the yellow one. Gate 31, it says Gate 7 and Gate 31 form the channel of the alpha, defining the G and the throat centers. And Gates 51, which is down here in the heart center, and Gate 25, which is here in the G center in the yellow, form the channel of initiation, defining the heart and G centers. A defined center is a hub of consistent and reliable energy within us. Single gate activations in a defined center, such as gate 33 here in the throat center, the brown one, gate 33 and gate 31, these are defined. So single gate activations in a defined center. Okay, we won't use gate 31 as an example because it has both gates at the end of the channel defined. So we'll use gate 33, like you said in the writing, and gate 62, which is where? Right here in the throat at the top. But see, it's just half the channel colored in. The connecting gate, gate 17, which would be in the Anja Center, It's not defined. So, a defined center, single gate activations in a defined center, such as gate 33 and gate 62, are hanging gates that dependably contribute their theme to the overall definition. Although definition is the energy frequency of our differentiated self, which is communicated to others through our presence. So if it has a single gate in a defined center, that's called a hanging gate. And they dependably contribute their theme to the overall definition of that defined center. Although definition is the energy frequency of our differentiated self. Altogether, definition is the energy frequency of our differentiated self, which is communicated to others through our presence. Undefined center. This one here for the third eye. An undefined center. The undefined or white centers are places of vulnerability where we're open to opportunities for learning and to the influence of conditioning forces around us. An undefined center in a chart has one or more dormant gates. They can be unconscious, red, or conscious, black. Right? They could come from the left side of your human design chart, which is the design side, which is showing all your unconscious energy. So it would be in red, or your personality side, which is on the right side. It's in black. That's telling you about things that you're conscious of, the energy you're conscious of. Okay, so these dormant gates, an undefined center in a chart, can have one or more dormant gates. These dormant gates, they can be unconscious, colored in red, or conscious, colored in black, aspects of our design. Dormant gates are alone in the channel. They hang out, waiting to be sparked by an electromagnetic connection, which would be the gate at the other end of the channel, right? The dormant gate filters or directs the incoming energy towards the undefined centers, making us more aware of its presence within us. And then you have completely open centers, which is what the head center is here. Nothing defined, no coloring in, nowhere. It's completely open. Though it shares many characteristics with the undefined center, the phenomenon of a completely open center is quite different. No dormant gate means nothing to hold on to, no familiar themes or feelings with which to react or connect the energy to ourselves. We can be most vulnerable in a completely open center because, with no theme to hold on to, the information that is pouring through the center can be confusing, especially in its amplified state. And open centers will always bring amplified, it'll be amplified. Fortunately, the converse is also true. With no dormant gates in place to filter or prejudice incoming energy, we're open to the center's full potential for experiential learning, which becomes a source of wisdom as we mature. On the pages that follow, we will explore each center's characteristics, how its energy plays out in your life, and its true self and not self themes. Please refer to your human design chart and follow along to discover the story of you. So now we're going to deal with the throat center. Communication and manifestation, metamorphosis and transformation through interaction with the world. The biological correlation. Biologically, the throat center is associated with the thyroid and the parathyroid glands. These are endocrine glands which are responsible for metamorphosis, transformation. The thyroid system oversees metabolic processes, how we assimilate our food, whether we digest it quickly or not, how we burn energy, whether we are fast or slow, whether we are big or small, skinny or fat, resistance experienced from premature, unwelcome words and actions, or from speaking when we should be silent, can manifest in our physiology by compromising the health and well being of our vocal cords and thyroid function. Manifestation as communication and/or action. Key physiological changes in the location and structure of the larynx, with a concurrent development of the neocortex, have shaped the evolution of our species for the past 85,000 years, resulting in our capacity to express a self-reflected consciousness. These changes made it possible to fully manifest what it means to be human, both through verbal communication and as deliberate action. Whether defined in our body graph or not, the throat center plays a central role in how we express ourself as well as how we manifest our life vocationally. Even though its function is purely mechanical and unaware, the throat center remains a major focus within the body graph. If we think of the body graph as the map of a town, the throat center would be the town square. As the central and most complex of the 9 centers, all energy flowing through the body graph is under tremendous pressure to get to the throat to be communicated or acted upon. The phrase, all roads lead to Rome, sums it up quite nicely. The energy flowing through the body graph is metabolized and transformed within the body itself through the related biological processes of this center. Hmm. The throat center's primary function is manifestation through communication, expressing who we are, what we are thinking, feeling, creating, or learning, what we know or want to contribute, and what we have seen or heard and can say to empower others. With its manifesting potential and 11 gates or voices, the throat naturally attracts a lot of attention that is designed to set the stage for manifestation. We are not designed to be alone or isolated from each other. Our ability to communicate effectively ensures the quality of our relationships and therefore our survival. Language and communication are not about telling others what to do. They're about how to manifest or make ourselves known to others in unique ways so that they can respond to or interact with what we are saying and doing. Through communicating before acting, we can see beforehand what is viable and what isn't. Our own voice comes from specific gate activations or channel definition in our body graph. Any center in our design connected to our throat center has a direct outlet through that channel, and this is where our consistent and reliable voice and/or action comes from. It is so important that our words and actions count, for they are our truth. What an invaluable gift it is to be able to trust our authority for guidance and our strategy for the correct timing to manifest it. With so much pressure on the throat center to speak and to do, many people are prone to act or to say things either too soon or too late. By knowing our voice and what we're here to express or to do, as well as which gates are open to amplification, we can relax and wait for the proper moment to engage others in ways that are correct and fulfilling for us. The golden rule of the throat center is follow your strategy, follow your strategy and authority, and the timing will always be perfect. This way, our words and actions will be received with their full impact, without resistance and confusion or distortion. The throat center's secondary function is manifestation as action. Manifestation is possible when a motor is connected to the throat. Those with this kind of definition are true doers who can set things in motion and bring to completion what they envision. Of note, manifesting generators who have defined from the sacromotor to the throat. Their sacromotor is defined, their throat is defined, and that channel going from these things are defined. So that's what makes them a manifesting generator. They are the exception, as they follow a generator strategy of waiting to respond, not initiating. These distinctions are further elaborated upon in Section 4 on types. Society, as well as the not self, places tremendous demands on us to become something, to make a contribution with our life, such as choosing a job or vocation. The ability to grow into who we are designed to be, however, is totally dependent on uncovering our authentic self and living it. The throat center's strategic position in the body graph and its metamorphic function in the body make it a natural place for directing and affecting transformative, mutative change at all levels of living. The specific frequencies or gates activated in the throat center on our chart indicate just how the changes needed to further our transformation and evolve humanity will be expressed and moved along through us. Got a little choppy there, but we made it. That's me. The gates of the throat center are listed on the next page. So here's your gates, right? Gate 62, which is called the preponderance of the small or the gates of detail. So I think or not, communicating the detail and facts. Gate 23, splitting apart, called the gate of assimilation. I know or not, communicating individual insights. You have gate 56, the wanderer, the gate of stimulation. I believe or not, the stimulating storyteller. These are all gates of the throat center. Gate 16, enthusiasm, the gate of skills. I experiment or identify or not, to skillfully master something. Gate 20, completion, contemplation, the gate of the now. I am now or not. Instantaneous clarity or action. Gate 31, influence, the gate of influence. I lead or not. The influential elected leader. Gate 8, holding together, the gate of contribution. I can make a contribution or not. Unique self-expression. Gate 33, retreat, the gate of privacy. I remember or not. Sharing lessons of the past. Gate 35, progress, the gate of change. I experience or feel or not. Progress through experience. Gate 12, standstill, the gate of caution. I know I can try or not. Socially cautious. The gate 45, the gathering together, the gate of the gatherer. I have or not. The king or queen leading through education. The defined throat center is 72% of the population. Although we assume that when we speak, we're expressing the thoughts of our mind, what we communicate is actually determined by the 11 themes of the gates in the throat center. The throat is the energy hub for messages coming from all parts of the body graph. It transmutes and directs how that information manifests in the world as communication and action. So the throat is the energy hub for messages coming from all parts of the body. It transmutes and directs how that information manifests in the world as communication and action. Potentially, the throat can express or act directly from 6 different centers: the ajna or third eye, the solar plexus, the heart, the G center, the sacral center, and the spleen. The healthy throat center speaks from its reliable source of definition. For example, a throat connected to the heart center speaks from the I, as in, I want that, I have that, I will do that, right? Because the heart center is also called the will, where your will is at, your willpower. Okay, if the throat is connected to the solar plexus, one speaks or acts on emotions or feelings. If the throat is connected to the spleen, one speaks spontaneously from an intuitive knowing in the moment, from an intuitive knowing in the moment. And if the throat is directly connected to the sacral center, one speaks and acts on the responsive sounds of the sacral. If the throat is connected to the G center, one speaks from personal identity and direction from the higher self. Therefore, the mark of a defined throat is the consistent but limited way it reliably expresses itself. Those with a throat center defined to a motor center can always do or manifest, but it does not mean they always should. Having a throat center connected to a motor can fuel the urge to be impulsive, to succumb to the tendency to talk too much or do too much, and to give energy away to every impulse. When they confidently and comfortably rely on their strategy and authority and know where their voice comes from and when to use it, people with the defined throat centers can manifest their truth with ease, honesty, and clarity. The undefined throat center, which is 28% of the population. The not self theme of the undefined throat center is trying to attract attention. People with undefined throat centers are afraid that they won't be noticed, so their not self mind jumps at the chance to think up ways to attract attention. They can easily succumb to an amplified pressure to talk, to act, to make an impression, to interrupt, or to be the life of the party. They don't realize that the open throat naturally attracts attention, and if they wait, invitations to speak will come to them. In this way, they will receive the proper attention at the most opportune time with no need to waste precious energy doing or saying something to move the process along. As long as their authority agrees that they do have something to say that needs to be said. By reducing the urgent pressure that they feel to speak, they reduce stress on their vocal cords. If the amplified pressure to speak that they experience in their undefined throat center has been conditioned by someone else's throat definition, what they say will be unpredictable and probably poorly received by others. Over time, they can become fearful of opening their mouths. Feeling out of control and unable to communicate effectively can be most disturbing in our highly verbal culture. This is remedied by those with open throat centers gaining confidence in their strategy and authority to guide their conversations and learning to understand the ways that this center functions at a mechanical level in their design. When around others with a defined throat center, they may feel uncomfortable and end up doing most of the talking just to relieve the extra pressure. They also spend a lot of mental energy figuring out what they're going to say next, only to be surprised and perhaps uncomfortable when they say something completely unexpected. The dilemma is that they cannot plan what they say with consistency, right? Because their center is open, which means they don't have consistent energy for that. Wow. The healthiest approach for open throats is to stop trying to control what they say. They're designed to speak spontaneously and to enjoy the different voices or forms of expression that come through them. They understand that they don't need to do anything to attract attention. Though they feel the pressure to speak when they're with others, they are relaxed and comfortable with their natural state of silence. They know that if they wait, the invitation and proper timing to participate will present itself. Their wisdom is recognizing who is speaking and acting from their truth or not. If not comfortably oriented by their strategy and authority, they can become preoccupied with the questions, how can I attract attention? Or what am I going to become in life? Trying to figure these out mentally only leads to poorly timed decisions and abortive actions, putting pressure on their thyroid glands. The completely open throat center. A completely open throat is most rare as the throat center has 11 potential activations. People with this open configuration have no idea what to say or what action to take. For example, children with an undefined throat center may take longer to learn to talk and should be encouraged to speak at their own pace. When the not self in either children or adults dictates how and when to attract attention, talk, and act, they will find themselves speaking with a voice borrowed or conditioned by someone else. The result is saying the wrong word at the wrong thing at the wrong time, or being ignored altogether. The resistance that they build, the resistance that they meet builds over time, affecting both their self-confidence and their thyroid function. Once they're comfortable with the flexibility and unpredictability of their speaking and confident in their authority's guidance, the considerable wisdom potential of this center emerges. Among other things, they will know who articulates well and who is speaking with authenticity from their own journey. Not self-talk of the undefined throat center. The not self mind is the spokesperson for the undefined centers and tells us what we should say or not or do. Noticing this talk is essential to deconditioning. Here are some examples of what the not self mental dialogue could sound like with an undefined throat center. Where should I go so that I can get the attention I want? Is anyone noticing me? If I say this, then I'll be noticed. If I initiate this conversation, then I'll get the attention I deserve. I better say something because this silence is making me uncomfortable. What should I manifest? I better manifest something. What or who will I become in life? The head center, mental pressure, inspiration, questions, doubts, and confusion. The biological correlation. Biologically, the head center is associated with our pineal gland, which regulates the flow of information between the gray areas of the brain and the neocortex, or between the head and the ajna centers. More than 90% of mental processes take place deep within the gray areas of the brain, below our level of conscious awareness, and everything that is processed by our brain is filtered through accumulated past experience. This creates a pressure that manifests as questions, seeking answers, or the need to know the whys of life. It fuels or drives our thinking and conceptualizing and how we process the consciousness field. Mental pressure and inspiration. As above, so below. At the top of the body graph is the head center with its mental pressure, understood as inspiration. At the bottom is the root center with its adrenalized pressure, understood as stress. The head center functions as the pressure to comprehend, to think, and to make sense of things in the world. Its pressure moves our thoughts towards conceptualization in the Anja Center by pushing our questions towards formulas and opinions, our pondering towards clarification and insight, and our confusion towards realization and ideas, and then on to the throat center where they are transformed into language. Human design refers to this pressure as inspiration, the ways that we have of taking in information from the cosmic field of consciousness. The inspiration of the head center is not a motorized energy that leads to action, but rather a pressure that drives our mental activity. It stimulates our imagination, our unique mode of thinking and conceptualizing, and initiates our everyday mundane thoughts as well as our most lofty and probing questions about the mysteries of existence. Quite simply, this is the pressure to ask questions and expect answers that we experience throughout our day. Our head center pressures or directs mental activity to the ajna along three channels that represent three time frames. It formulates questions focused on securing our future, which is what Gate 63 deals with. It takes in and processes what is new and worth pondering in the moment, which is Gate 61. And it begins sorting through the sometimes confusing muddle of past experiences to find its meaning, Gate 64. This routing is crucial to setting the three sources of inspiration in motion and decoding them so that they arrive at the throat with their maximum potential to impact and communicate still intact. This questioning curiosity of the intellect, the mind's extraordinary gift to penetrate the unknowable, to make sense of life, and to be an inspiration for others, is here to be enjoyed as a source of never ending wonder. Each decision that liberates our mind from running our life releases and refocuses the mind's tremendous creativity so it can make its essential contribution to the understanding, evolution, and the quality of life on the planet. Unfortunately, when the not self usurps the role of our personal authority, the head center begins a stream of meaningless questions and thoughts about things that truly do not matter. This can become an incessant pressure to know what fills us with doubt and confusion, driving us further away from ourselves. An incessant pressure to know that fills us with doubt and confusion, driving us further away from ourselves. If the pressure builds without release, it can result in severe headaches like migraines. Another consequence of letting our not self distract the head center from its proper role is that we keep our mind from reaching its potential in our life as the true source of wisdom that it actually can be. It is from the head center that we learn about the nature of inspiration, how to experience the pressure without losing sight of the wonder, and how to recognize what or who is truly inspiring or not. The gates of the head center. There are only three gates in the head center. The nature of the pressure and the theme of each gate establishes its perimeters and mode of inspiration. Pressure from the head center moves inspiration towards the ajna for conceptualization and then on to the throat to be communicated. The pressures described below nag at us until we let them go or find a way to resolve them. So gate 64, before completion. This is the gate of confusion. And what goes on with that, the energy that you're dealing with that is abstract pressure to make sense of the past and to resolve the chaos and confusion. Gate 61, inner truth, the gate of mystery. You're dealing with mutative pressures to know something new, to understand the mysteries, or to know the unknowable. Gate 63, after completion, the gate of doubt. Logical pressure to make sense of the pattern through doubt, looking for the logic or a new pattern. The defined head center is 30% of the population. Definition between the head and ajna centers creates a consistent mental pressure to ask and to answer the question, and to grasp and to understand things, including consciousness itself. Dealing with the persistent pressure of inspiration is often difficult and can heighten mental anxiety, as inspiration is always about what has not yet been grasped. It merely frames the questions. Those with defined head centers have a fixed way of thinking. The themes of their particular gates and channels become the subject or source of inspiration available to others. When they are part of a group, their auras put people with undefined head centers under pressure to think. Only 30% of the world's population has a defined head center, but they are capable of inspiring or pressuring the remaining 70% who do not. The head and ajna centers are not connected to one of the four motors. Therefore, There is no energy for them to bring their thoughts and ideas directly into manifestation. Struggling to do so only leads to frustration, anger, bitterness, or disappointments. By waiting for the opportune moment to motivate people with their stimulating questions and possibilities, such as people who can put the ideas to work, those with a defined head and ajna eliminate the resistance that they meet when they impose their ideas on a world that's not yet prepared to act on them. That is to say, relying on their strategy to determine the timing and receptivity of their audience will save them valuable energy, reduce anxiety, and increase their self confidence. It is natural for those with defined head and anja centers to feel under continual pressure to resolve their thought process and to understand their own inspiration and answer their own questions. If, however, they succumb to impatience with this persistently unresolved state and turn the mental pressure inward on themselves, they can experience deep anxiety, self doubt, and depression. If they attempt to relieve the pressure by turning it outward into action, the result is usually a hasty, incorrect decision and a missed opportunity to be a true inspiration. The challenge is to accept the mental pressure without trying to act on it or escape it. Confusion, doubt, and clarity are natural processes that have their own inner timing and resolution. Under the guidance of one's authority, they become qualities which stimulate thought provoking questions and a wide array of answers capable of uplifting, inspiring, and empowering others. The undefined head center is 70% of the population. Right, because defined head centers are 30%. Okay. Those with an undefined head center have no consistent way of deliberating mental information. If normal inspiration becomes an amplified pressure to think about things that don't matter, they can get lost in their own mental monologue. Meaningless, not self thoughts and questions will ultimately steer them away from correct decision making processes. As anxiety increases, they may seek to assuage it by looking for someone or something inspiring to focus on. Undefined head centers tend to either avoid intellectual pursuits or throw themselves into one mystery after another. They're easily caught up with trying to make decisions and solve problems that are not even their own, becoming lost or overwhelmed by doubt and confusion which actually belongs to someone else. Pressure to resolve other people's questions as soon as possible weighs them down, making it difficult to empty all the stuff out of their heads so that they can relax, which puts even more pressure on their minds to try and figure things out, to answer their unending questions. Since they can't solve their problems with the same not self mind that created them, the key to emerging out of the swirl of confusion and doubt is to bypass the mentally busy, undefined head center by relying on their authority to guide them. The secret to maintaining mental health is to refuse to act out of mental pressure by remaining a detached observer of their thoughts and letting their authority direct them to appropriate ways of using their minds. The real potential of the undefined head center is to wonder and explore the mysteries of life, human consciousness, and the intellectual possibilities of an infinite range of subjects. It can discern which inspiration is worthy of contemplation and how much of the mental field is simply a distraction, who is inspiring, and who is confusing. People with open head centers can use the information that they take in from others to become great reflectors of what others are thinking and help discern the value of those thoughts for humanity. They're open to new insights and love to be filled with inspiration and ideas from all directions. They enjoy the pressure to know more without becoming identified with or overwhelmed by it. When experiencing confusion or doubt, they let go of the compulsive need to resolve it because they know it will pass. Ultimately, they can be open to the beauty and depth of the unknown and enjoy both the question and the confusion while trusting that things will become clear or not, whichever is correct for them. The completely open head center. Those without gate activations in the head center have no innate way of recognizing when one thing is more inspiring or interesting than any other. There's no consistent means of connecting mental pressure to the rest of their design or to naturally ease them into a familiar way of thinking about things or entering into dialogue with another person. They don't know what to focus on, especially in this overwhelming age of information. They simply don't know what to think about, what matters or doesn't matter, or why, and often fear thinking about anything at all. Such anxiety can lead to disconnecting from their intellect and avoiding conversations that are intellectually stimulating. Or they can become easily distracted by the pressure to think up answers or give away their authority by relying on others to tell them what is interesting, inspiring, or important. In order to enjoy their healthy and boundless capacity for wisdom, and to understand the pressure behind the question and discern what is inspiring, completely open head centers need to allow the often amplified mental pressure that they experience to pass through without identifying with any part of it. As they become comfortable with themselves over time, they become sensitive to the nuances of the head center and its true gifts, and can gauge who uses their minds effectively and who does not. They may even be sensitive enough to ascertain what others are thinking. In this way, deep explorations into all that their mind can inspire will fill them with wonder. And now, the not self talk of the undefined head center. The not self mind is the spokesperson for the undefined centers and tells us what we should say or do. Noticing this not self talk is essential to deconditioning. Here are some examples of what the not self mental monologue could sound like with an undefined head center. I need to find something inspiring. Maybe if I go there, I'll find something inspiring. I need to find an answer to my questions. Where can I go to find the answers? Who has the answers? I've got to understand this and or make sense of this. Where can I go or whom can I talk to in order to find the answers? Is this supposed to be interesting? What should I be thinking about? Hmm. All right. The root center. Physical adrenalized pressure to sustain momentum for living and stress. The biological correlation. Biologically, the root center is associated with the adrenal system and the production of stress hormones. Stress, as understood in the context of this center, is merely a fuel. It energizes certain biochemical processes deep within us that are designed to help us master the situations that we meet in life and sustain our momentum to progress and evolve, or to progress and evolve. Stress cannot be avoided, nor can we fight against this vital fuel without paying the consequences. If we don't understand the mechanics of this pressure on our body, we can easily push ourselves too hard. If we turn this pressure inward, we can become depressed and suffer deeply. One byproduct of maintaining a healthy balance between too much and too little stress is a sense of vitality that spills over as joy for living. Adrenal pressure, or fuel, and motor energy. Both the head and root centers are sources of pressure, or fuel, which drive energy towards the throat for communication or manifestation. This similarly gives these two centers a deep and inherent connection to each other. While the head center brings mental pressure in the form of doubt, confusion, and inspiration, the root center brings the pressure and fuel to evolve, to adapt to the world, and to get us through our most difficult challenges. It provides us with our purest and most powerful energy and momentum to keep life moving forward. Unlike the head center, however, the root center is unique in that it's both a pressure center and a motor. 9 different life processes are fueled by energy that originates in the root center. They ultimately make their way to the throat center, but only after this powerful fuel that moves them along is processed or tempered by passing through the centers around it, the sacral, spleen, or solar plexus. The root's pressurized or adrenalized energy is far too strong to be directly connected to and manifested by the throat center. So here are the gates that are in the root center. And remember, when we see gates, a synonym for gates in this human design center is hexagram. Hexagrams are part of the I Ching system from China. So when you see gate 58, think in your mind hexagram 58 from the I Ching. So now these are the gates or hexagrams that are part of the root center. Gate 58, the joyous, the gate of vitality, pressure to correct and perfect or to make things better. Gate 38, opposition, the gate of the fighter, pressure to find or struggle for purpose in life. Gate 54, the marrying maiden, the gate of drive, pressure to achieve, to rise up, to transform. Gate 53, development, the gate of beginnings, pressure to begin or to start new things. Gate 60, limitation, the gate of acceptance, pressure to mutate, to transcend limitations. Gate 52, keeping still, like mountain, the gate of inaction, pressure to focus your energy, to concentrate. Gate 19, approach, the gate of wanting, pressure to be sensitive to basic needs. Gate 39, obstruction, the gate of provocation, pressure to find the passion and spirit in life, pressure to emote. Gate 41, decrease, the gate of contraction, pressure to feel, the desire for a new experience. Root pressure literally gets the body moving and is an essential ingredient of manifestation in our lives. How we direct the stress, which by itself is neither good nor bad, is determined by our own unique root center configuration, or the specific gates that are defined or undefined in your root center. The defined root center, 60% of the population. A defined root center has a fixed and particular way of dealing with stress and the pressure to move ahead in the world. The root can be defined to 3 different centers: the sacral, the spleen, and the solar plexus, right? The sacral is right above the root center. The spleen is to the left of it. The solar plexus is over here to the right. So any energy coming from the root has to go through these channels to either the spleen, the sacral going upward, or over here to the right through the solar plexus. The three connections or channels between the root center and the sacral center in the illustration to the left are called format energies. These 3 black channels, they're black because they're colored in, they're defined. These 3 connections or channels are called format energies. They dictate whether the way that we operate in the world is logical and focused, cyclical and developmental, or unpredictable and mutative. Those with the logical format energy, which is the channel of concentration, gates 52 and 9. Let me see if I can see that here. Okay, 52 and 9. Okay, so those with the logical format energy, the channel of concentration, gates 52 and 9, or the channel 52 and 9, live life in a step-by-step, logical, detailed, and organized way. Those with the abstract format energy, which is the channel of maturation, gates 52 and 42, 53 and 42 on the left side, that channel. These people live life in multiple experiential cycles with distinct beginnings, middles, and ends. This is the channel of maturation. And then you have the channel of mutation in the middle, gate 60 and 3. This channel, those who have that, live life with on and off power bursts of mutating energy. Now, these format energies powerfully permeate the entire design of those that have them and have a significant influence on people that come in contact with them. In order to stay healthy and thrive in the material world, those who have the root center defined to the splenic center are able to rely on their fixed way of dealing with the pressure to survive, move up, and correct what isn't working. In this way, the root feels existential awareness and survival consciousness, including the joy of being alive in a body. So, one who has the root center defined to the solar plexus center will have a fixed way of dealing with emotional stress, with what is new and desirous, and with personal and social relationships. This is pressure fueling emotional awareness or emotional relational intelligence. It is possible for people with defined root centers to also succumb to not self-stress. If the powerful pressure that they feel all the time is not properly guided by their strategy and authority, they can become obsessive. They go about their life initiating and thus meet resistance in the form of the wrong kind of stress, which is detrimental to their health. Their tendency is to project this pressure or stress onto others in the form of unreasonable expectations. Once they're comfortable with their own consistent internal pressure, they can be alert to times when people with an undefined root center are allowing unhealthy levels of magnified root pressure to drive them. As long as they begin something out of their strategy and authority and a place of stillness and joy, then no matter how challenging or stress-filled their endeavors, they will remain grounded in their root center's sustaining energy. The undefined root center is 40% of the population. The undefined root center absorbs stress from its environment. People with an undefined root are subject to pressures from those with a defined root. Because the amplified pressure is uncomfortable, they're always trying to get rid of it. Yet as soon as they do, another pressure takes its place. They rush around and accomplish the work of three people trying to resolve pressure that cannot be resolved. It's an endless, unsustainable cycle that eventually results in burnout. Undefined roots take in and amplify the adrenalized root center stress in the world, but are not equipped to sustain that level of momentum for long. Over time, this kind of conditioning can become hyperactivity, uncontrollable restlessness, and an inability to focus. Children often pay the biggest price. When the amplification of energy from others through their open root center is misunderstood as misbehavior or uncooperativeness or mental deficiency, they're usually punished, humiliated, or referred to therapists. Think about all the children with open root centers who have been given drugs to calm them down. Understand the overall mechanics of a child's design. Understanding the overall mechanics of a child's design makes it possible to explore new ways of working with these energy dynamics without damaging our children. Yes. Okay. Because the root is a motor. And if you got it defined, it's going all the time. And in your motor is going all the time, you go around somebody who has an open root, that energy that you have going 24/7 is amplified. They take it in amplified because they don't have a defined root. So now they're not equipped to dealing with energy, that energy from that motor, because it's a motor. They're not able to deal with that. It causes all these things, like they said. It can cause hyperactivity because it's a burst of energy that they don't normally have access to all the time. Only when you come around, then that energy is emitting from you to through them, and it's times two because it's amplified. So over time, when they're around, or they're not used to it, they don't know anything about it, that kind of conditioning, it can become like it can become hyperactive. Think of your kids at school. They're in a classroom. Your child has an open root center. The other people in the class, most of them or whoever, has defined root centers. So your child is getting an amplified burst of energy while they're sitting next to this kid in class. Now they're being hyperactive. Now they're having a hard time focusing. Now they're uncontrollable. Now they're restless. That's because they're getting a birth of energy from their classmate sitting in the next chair over who has a defined root center. Your child doesn't have one. So anytime they come to class and you keep getting calls from the teacher and letters like this, your kid is acting up. He's hyperactive. He's not focusing. He's restless. He won't sit down. He won't stop talking. He won't keep moving around. And do you even think, or did we even know before we read this? Maybe the person sitting next to him or within arm's length has a defined root center, and my baby has an undefined root center. And so when they're around this person, that burst of energy, which my baby is not usually having to deal with, when they're not at school or around somebody with this, now they're around you. They don't usually even have to deal with this kind of energy flowing through their body. They don't have a defined root center. They don't have access to this energy 24/7. So when it pops up on them, it's like, whoa! And now they're not equipped to really deal with it or sustain it for too long, you know. And you're getting letters, and they're like, maybe they need ADHD, but maybe they're ADD. You should take them to the doctor, put them on some Ritalin or something. Uh, we see it. We just read it. We understand what this means. I know we understand, tribe. So now that we're thinking about the repercussions and we're thinking about the reality that this is real, then we got to start dealing with these children differently and each other differently. I'm going to keep reading. I just wanted to pause and point that out. I hope you're nodding in agreement with me. You understand. We're sending these kids to school. Everybody's got a different body, a different body graph. And my kid is getting amplified energy through maybe their root center. I don't know. But we don't need to take them to the doctor and get them on Ritalin or diagnose them as having ADHD or ADD or being a bad kid and just won't listen and sit down. We need to go ahead and deal with this the right way, right? Wholeness and balance, right? Hey, let's educate ourselves. And once we know better, we can do better. All right? Most people operate without awareness and allow outside pressures to drive them. When adults or children with undefined root centers begin to understand that the pressure they feel is not their own, they can find ways to avoid being overwhelmed by it. Basically, there are two things they can do when experiencing stress. One is to step away and avoid it while taking deep breaths to release some of the pent up pressure, right? Breathing exercises. Yes. And the other is to take advantage of the adrenalized energy. For example, an on-stage performer with an undefined root center can be empowered by the adrenaline rush from an enthusiastic audience. The opposite reaction to a huge shot of external adrenaline is paralyzing fear or stage fright. Stage fright. Living off the adrenalized pressure can become a habit or an addiction, leaving one vulnerable to all sorts of health issues and accidents. When operating correctly, undefined root centers wait for their authority to guide their decisions. They do not judge themselves to be lazy or incompetent if they fail to work quickly or simply refuse to. They can distinguish between healthy and unhealthy environmental pressure and are not addicted to either. They simply recognize them for what they are, right? Now I can go into a room and sit down. I'm at a motivational talk, room full of people. I sit down in my chair. Somebody comes and sits. I'm at a movie theater watching a movie. Somebody comes and sits down next to me, and all of a sudden, now I'm aware, and now I'm starting to become conscious, be more conscious, and pay attention to my body. Now I feel this shot of adrenaline. Now I'm like, oh, this person must have a defined root center that just sat down next to me, you know. And I might be cool with that, especially if I'm watching a thriller or a action-packed movie. But if I'm watching some drama, sad movie, or something that I need, a documentary, something I need to be focused on, I might want to move chairs. Hey, I don't need all that extra energy coming from you right now that's gonna make me. I can't handle all that energy, and I'm just bouncing in my seats. I want to calm down and focus. Let me switch seats. And your kid can do the same thing at school. Once you start teaching them, once they start realizing it and noticing when they're around different people, they get a burst of energy, you can say, hey, if at the moment when you feel that, if you don't want that burst of energy, you can move seats. Ask the teacher if you can move seats. You know what I'm saying? Do things like that. You know what I'm saying? It's real easy, but we can't do better unless we know better. Now we know. So now we can be on the lookout to recognize when we got an influx of energy all of a sudden. Look around, who's next to me? You know what I'm saying? Maybe somebody got a defined root center and I'm undefined. I mean, I can move around. I don't want to deal with this. Like I just drank coffee and I don't drink coffee. You know what I'm saying? Like, or I already had a cup of coffee and now this person sitting next to me is like another cup of coffee and two cups of coffee make me jittery. I can't deal with all that extra energy. Let me move around. You know what I'm saying? Something. You know what I'm saying? But all this just so that I can live life more easily, right? Right. So the wisdom to be gained from the undefined root center comes when they no longer identify with or are lost to the habits of their conditioning. At that point, they're able to observe how stress functions and to discern how to use it properly. They know when it's healthy to take advantage of the adrenalized pressure and when to avoid it. The key is to recognize what pressure belongs to them and what does not. Yes, the completely open root center. Those with completely open root centers can experience the full range of its pressure, from the deep stillness of focused concentration to intense hyperactivity, but they don't understand it. When they're not paying attention to their authority, they tend to operate unconsciously, allowing amplified adrenal pressure and incorrect mental decisions to push them through life. They automatically answer the phone, say yes, speed up, become accident prone, and hurry through things so that they can be free of the pressure, all the while believing that this is the way to live, because they neither understood nor recognized the pressure, or the fact that it is amplified and not their own. They don't know how to use it productively. Their system can't sustain that level of amplified pressure or momentum for long and will eventually collapse in on itself. Examples would be extreme cases of stage fright or panic attacks where they can't move forward at all in the moment or move on with their life. They can lose their joy of being alive. Mm, mm, mm. This is informative, very interesting. And like he said, this is not a way, this is not, you don't have no pressure to believe in any of this stuff. All this is about an experiment. All we can do, he told you, all you can do, Ra Uru Hu, who was the founder of the human design system, he said he calls it an experiment. All he can do is tell you what he knows, and from there it's your job to experiment with these things and find out if it works in your life and makes your life better and easier. Instead of going up against a lot of resistance and bumping your head and having awkward moments and saying or doing the wrong thing and feeling angry and bitter and unseen and all that. Try it out this way, see if it works, and if it does, shoot, make you a YouTube video too. Say, hey, I'm all about human design, y'all. This shit works for real. You should listen. But if it don't work, make a video too and say, you know what, that human design is garbage. I tried it and I don't believe it. And somebody, hey, it'll help either way. Either way, so whoever needs to get helped will get helped. But gotta experiment with it, try it out, see if it's true or not. Right? Nature is a place of peace for them, a respite and peaceful buffer zone from the stressors of the demanding, fast-paced world that we live in. Once they have let the pressure that is not their own pass through them and their system is quieted, they can reconnect with a comfortable and livable level of pressure within themselves. By using their strategy and authority, they maintain a healthy and productive balance between the pressure that moves life forward and the pressure to be still. Peace, patience, and balance are then possible, along with the wisdom to clearly see and evaluate the nature and effects of this fundamental yet often overwhelming stress on individuals and humanity. So now let's hear what some of the not self-talk of the undefined root center sounds like. The not self mind is the spokesperson for the undefined centers and tells us what we should say or do. Noticing this talk is essential to deconditioning. Here are some examples of what the not self mental monologue could sound like with an undefined root center. What am I going to do to make my life better? Where is my purpose? I have to achieve something in my life. I better hurry up and get this done. I have to start something new now. How can I get past this limitation? What am I going to focus on? I need something to focus on. I need to be needed. Who needs me? Where can I go to be needed? Where is my passion? What am I passionate about? I feel like a new experience. I have to hurry up and initiate a new experience. I don't want to waste my time. I have to get this done. Hmm. Well, family, we're going to pause here because there's 9 centers. We've read 3 now. We'll pick back up on the Anja Center when we come back. So far we did the head center. I believe we did the, which one was it? Let me go back. I'll just scroll back. We did the head center, the, right, the head center, the root center, and the throat center. We did the head, the throat, and the root. And now we're going to end this video. And when we come back, we'll start on the Anjana Center. We're talking about these centers and the flow of energy, how all this works in this human design center. So, very informative. Um, I would like you guys to meet me in the Openly Occultic Book Club chat room, the CGH chat rooms that I showed at the beginning of the video. Here, I'll show it again. You just go to cedargroveherbs.com and on the left side you'll see the chat, CGH chat, click on that. The little 3 dots at the top open up the different chat rooms. There you can find the Openly Occultic Book Club chat room. And let's talk more about this. I want you to meet me there. I want you to pull your human design charts. Go ahead and Google free human design chart. You'll be able to get it somewhere. It's like a natal chart. You just add in your date of birth, location of birth, time of birth, and you'll get your human design chart. And meet me in the chat room or even leave a comment here. Let me know if you have a defined head center, a defined throat center, a defined root center, or if those 3 centers that you have are open. And I'll share with you as well My, um, I have an open head center, I have an open throat center, and I have an open root center. Can you believe it? And yes, I had panic attacks a lot. I haven't had some in years, but when I was growing up as a child, and now I know I'm sitting amongst other people with defined root centers. It's too much. It was too much for me. So yes, I had panic attacks from the age of about 9 years old till a little bit after my mom died. I was in college. I was 20 years old. So around all these different people who have defined root centers. So I'm doing my experiment. I'm looking back in my mind's eye. I'm going back over my life, thinking about what's going on. And yes, I have an open root center, and I've had a lot of panic attacks from the age of 9 till a little bit past 20, 21, 22, around that age. Yes. And during this time, where could I be found most of the time? In school. I'm in elementary school, junior high school, and then college. Yes. Interesting, right? So, leave a comment. Let me know if you have your body graph. Meet me in the chat rooms. Let's talk about our open or defined centers, the three that we've talked about so far. This is exciting. I'm excited. I hope you guys meet me there. Make sure to also like, share, and subscribe. Share this video with other people that are into astrology. This is fun, you guys. This is very informative, and it's making more sense out of my life. I hope this is making more sense out of your life. I mean, just those three centers alone that we just dove into. You got an open or a closed, a defined or open head center, a defined or open throat center, or a defined and open root center. Let me know in the comments, and we'll be back up here next time to discuss the Ajna Center, which is the third eye, right? That area where your third eye is at. So, excellent. Thank you for joining me. Hope you have a wonderful day. Wholeness and balance.